Today, the Mets 2024 offseason has only been about a week long, and we have our first signing. Chris Devenski, you are headed to Queens. We're going to break that down on this special edition of Mets Digest. What's going on, everybody? Flobo Boyce here. It's hanging with you. It's a nice Monday afternoon, but already news is breaking about the Mets offseason. I'm a bit giddy because I remember the days where we would get no news about Mets signings till very, very late. But before we get into that, just got to say, myself, alongside Mike D'Angelo, we work tirelessly to give you the news and notes you need to be a part of the Mets nation, I guess. But if you're watching this right now, you like what we're putting down, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, like the video. Don't be in that not subscribed crew. Be in that subscribe crew so you're the first to know when things pop off. Okay, yeah, it's Monday. Again, the Mets have been basically out of contention for about a week. I'm still personally a little sore about that, but I will recover. Well, we got some breaking news just today. The Mets made their first minor league signing, and we'll get to the reasons why we have to stress that point in just about a second. But this one here is kind of interesting. I give out to Anthony DeComo, who follows the Mets for MLB.com, with a tweet that happened a couple of hours ago. It says, the Mets are in agreement for a minor league deal for pitcher Chris Devenski with a camp invite. So former champion 2017 with the Astros. So the veteran right-hander and World Series champ recently became a free agent. He ended the season with a 2.35 ERA over 23 appearances for Seattle's AAA affiliate. That seems pretty cool enough. Again, a lot of years in the league. Age 33, not necessarily a spring chicken, but definitely is a World Series champion and definitely did well in Seattle's minor league affiliate this year. But in my due diligence, right, I can't just ignore his major league service this year, which tells a different story. Check it out. Okay, so starting off the season with Tampa Bay, the team that Phil Maton had some time in. Remember him? The ERA, in comparison, isn't necessarily the greatest. I understand that ERA isn't really the tell-all when it comes to pitchers, especially now. But there definitely was a down year for Devo, is what they call him, and before he was DFA'd from Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay had their own struggles when it comes to their personnel, but no one likes to see them lose their job. It was kind of telling that they were able to essentially cut bait at this point. Spent some time with Seattle AAA affiliate and was selected by the Mets today. So again, I look at that FIP. What do you say? Basically, a 3 FIP is pretty good and lower. This one is about double that. And that ERA is pretty shy of 7 before the Seattle accolades. And so, first, your boy was a little bit confused. I go, okay, great. I love the fact that we're able to get pitchers that may be part of the Reclamation project, but why Devo? Like, that just seems like an odd choice. But then I took a moment. I checked myself before I wrecked myself, as the homeboys and OGs used to say. It's like, look, we used to be part of an ownership group that wouldn't even make sightings until like February, like a week before spring training. And the ones that were chosen were definitely ones that were considered quote unquote dumpster diving, which is an unfair estimation, but definitely was the case. Look, we have a need to get some starting pitching. I don't think that's off the table. And Edwin Diaz is not the Edwin Diaz of 2022, but there is still a need to fill in those gaps with some pitching. And I'm going to show you some things today that really gave me a bit of pause, a chance for me to really evaluate my thinking when it comes to this, and hopefully you can work around with me. Anyway, Anthony DeComo, the originator of that tweet, continues on MLB.com about the transaction. He says, Major League free agency won't begin until after the World Series, super important, but clubs can still sign the dozens of players who recently declared for minor league free agency. Among them was Devenski, 33, a veteran of 9 major league seasons with a 3.98 ERA over 400 career innings. Super important that he has that high leverage experience, if I do say so myself. A member of the 2017 World Champion Astros, and whether or not you count 2017 is up to you. I do because Major League Baseball does, but I understand if you don't. Devenski appeared in 5 of Houston's 7 Fall Classic games and was a winning pitcher in Game 2. So yes, the name of the game, I would say for us is yes, we have to get the rotation figured out, but that bullpen isn't the strongest, and it never felt like it was the strongest. And it kind of felt like there's a circle of trust this season that was always changing. Always, some guys are brought in, some guys are kicked out, and I want to go through some of those via this quote. This was actually from that same article from MLB.com, and it continues. It says, Devenski's signing is likely to be the first of numerous pitching depth additions over the coming months as the Mets look to rebuild a bullpen that ranked 17th in the majors in ERA. Now, I know walks have a lot to do with that, but 17th in the majors is not what a champion squad makes. Phil Maton, Ryan Stanek, Drew Smith, Brooks Raley, and Adam Ottavino can all become free agents after the World Series, leaving the Mets with few sure things beyond closer Edwin Diaz. Now, it is kind of apparent that Ottavino is pretty much going to be done this season. I think he's a free agent. The Mets there's hasn't really been any reason to believe that he'll be resigned. He was even used in high leverage situations. But Phil Maton is an interesting case because over the summer and the fall, he was on fire. Didn't really deliver in the postseason. Now, there is a club option for Maton, which means if the Mets choose to elect to get Maton back into the fold, they can do so at the price of $7,750,000. So basically $7.75 million for next year if the Mets want to bring back Maton, but they can obviously decline that if you go by recency bias and Maton's performance in the postseason. But that has really been the issue for us. How do we get out of the rotation? I understand rotation you get met until we get to Edwin Diaz. And we've tried. There's individuals there that aren't around the team now. Remember Adrian Hauser? He was someone that was really part of the conversation until he wasn't. He's currently in the Orioles organization. But this pickup here might be interesting for that reclamation project strategy where it comes to David Stearns taking pitchers that may be considered too old or maybe considered not having the best stuff or down years, maybe somehow fix them. Now, a minor league invitation or a minor league contract and an invitation to spring training is not necessarily a golden ticket. It is not necessarily a guarantee, but does put things in perspective. If Devenski or Devo finds a way to really go beyond expectations, a opening day roster call-up isn't completely out of the question because, again, above all, he has the experience of those high leverage situations. I think a lot of things that David Stearns had applied in his postseason talk was that some guys kind of wilted or ran out of gas when it came down to being under the spotlight of the idea of the postseason. But that said, I can't knock it, man. When Devenski was on years ago, his changeup was amazing. If you could reclaim not even all of that, maybe just half of that, because he is going to be 34 next season. If you can give some of those, eat those innings in case of those situations where a pitcher can't go that long. If you have an older starting pitcher that may not be able to go 6, 7, 8 innings or so, you may have someone with more of a long relief situation. If that changeup is part of that equation, I mean, back to the classic 2017 stuff, it could be a whole different thing. And like I said before, the very nature we're trying to backfill before these huge free agent signings, like the Corbin Burnses or possibly Jordan Montgomerys, you've been watching this channel, or the Juan Sotos. Yeah, that's all great. The big splashes are great. We need all those guys as well, or we need to go after those guys at least. These are the kind of depth signings that can fall through the cracks that may end up being a benefit to us. And before you say, oh, we're dumpster diving, right? But you think about what has been dumpster doved before. I mean, Dediel Nunez was Jose Iglesias, Luis Torrens. I mean, there are some people that a lot of teams had written off. I always think about Torrens in particular. He was like purchased for $500,000 cash from the Yankees, really being a fantastic backup. Of course, from the stretch of the regular season, postseason was a little bit different with his uses, but I do think that we should really give him a chance. And it looks like David Stearns is not taking a week off, not going to Miami or Cancun, not taking an afternoon with a beverage in hand, going right into work. So that's also encouraging. I think if he knows what we know about the Mets having the 17th best pitching staff and it comes to ERA, That has to change, and this may be the start of that. Well, you let me know what you think. Do you see Devo making it to the major league lineup? Do you see him being an integral part of a 2025 project or the idea, or is this just kind of a flyer depth signing? We'll see how it goes. I am curious to see what you think. I'm excited. I'm encouraged. I think this is all across the board a good idea, but I know I'm only one man who loves my team. All right, you reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, it's LGM to the bitter end.